What if the company that once connected the world simply failed to connect the future? In 2007, a company with global dominance, immense brand loyalty, and a reputation for innovation stood on the brink of a technological revolution. At that moment, Nokia was not just another mobile phone maker, it was the mobile phone maker. From city streets in New York to back roads in Nairobi, almost half of the world's mobile phones bore Nokia's name. But within a few years, this titan of technology would become a cautionary tale about complacency, strategic missteps, and the danger of ignoring transformative innovation. How could a company that once commanded over 50% of the market lose everything in the face of a new competitor? This is the story of how Nokia's leadership underestimated the iPhone, clung to outdated technology, and ultimately lost the smartphone war. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, Nokia seemed unstoppable. The company had built its success on rugged, reliable mobile phones. Devices like the 3310 became cultural icons, synonymous with durability and long battery life. Nokia's dominant position was not accidental. It stemmed from a blend of engineering excellence, deep distribution networks, and an ability to produce reliable hardware at massive scale. By 2007, Nokia controlled around half of the global mobile phone market, a staggering figure in any industry. Nokia's leadership believed its position was secure. The company had an expansive portfolio that ranged from basic feature phones to early smartphones running its proprietary Symbian operating system. Symbian had allowed Nokia to be among the first companies to offer mobile email and basic internet browsing features that made it seem well-positioned for future growth. But beneath this success lay the seeds of vulnerability. A deep reliance on hardware and an outdated software strategy that was not equipped for the revolution brewing on the horizon. In January 2007, Apple introduced the iPhone, a device that redefined what a mobile phone could be. Rather than focusing on physical buttons, Apple's handset embraced a touchscreen-first design and an operating system built from the ground up to deliver a seamless digital experience. It wasn't just a phone, it was a pocket-sized computer with a rich user interface and a vision for software that anticipated an app-centric future. To Nokia's leadership, the iPhone initially seemed like an oddity, an expensive gadget that lacked a physical keyboard and only worked with a single carrier. Worse, it couldn't send picture messages, MMS, at launch. For executives accustomed to Nokia's reliable hardware and broad appeal, this new device appeared niche, even impractical. Many within Nokia genuinely believed the iPhone would fail. They saw no reason to adjust a strategy that had brought them unparalleled success. But the world would prove them wrong. Despite the initial dismissal, Nokia's engineers understood that Apple's approach signaled a deeper shift in how people would interact with technology. Internally, some teams began recognizing the potential threat of a touch-centric device that emphasized digital experiences over hardware features. A confidential internal presentation captured the urgency felt by a small group of employees, but their warnings largely went unheard by senior leadership. This disconnect would prove costly. Meanwhile, Apple's iPhone began gaining traction with consumers. The simplicity of the interface, the integration of internet services, and the promise of future applications resonated. Nokia, in contrast, remained fixated on hardware specs, battery life, camera megapixels, and physical keyboards, even as consumers were starting to prize software experience and ecosystem integration. Nokia did release touchscreen products, such as the Nokia 5800 in 2008, but these were not competitive with Apple's iPhone in user experience or ecosystem appeal. Late arrival and an operating system that had been designed in the era of button-based phones, meant that Nokia's touchscreen phones felt clunky and outdated in comparison. The biggest strategic mistake Nokia made was its unwavering commitment to Symbian, the operating system that powered its early smartphones. Once a pioneer in mobile software, Symbian could not compete with the user experience offered by iOS or the adaptability of Google's newly emerging Android platform. Symbian's architecture was complex, difficult for developers to work with, and ill-suited to touchscreens, yet Nokia continued to invest heavily in it. Rather than rethink its software strategy, Nokia doubled down on its existing platform. It expanded Symbian, poured money into upgrades, and tried to modernize what was essentially an outdated foundation. Meanwhile, Apple's App Store exploded with applications that dramatically expanded the utility of smartphones, and Android's open ecosystem attracted a broad wave of manufacturers and developers. Nokia's own platform simply could not keep up. This misalignment between Nokia's strengths and the marketplace's direction was more than a technical oversight. It was a failure of strategic vision. Nokia's leadership, comfortable with their market dominance and steeped in the hardware traditions that had brought them success, did not grasp how central software would become to the smartphone experience. Behind Nokia's strategic failures was a deeper, more insidious problem: the company's internal culture. A once dynamic organization became bogged down by bureaucracy and a fear of acknowledging uncomfortable truths. Engineers and mid-level managers who recognized the need for change were often reluctant to raise concerns, fearing repercussions or being dismissed. This culture of fear and inertia meant that even when Nokia realized Symbian was inadequate, it was poorly positioned to change course quickly. Decision-making became slow, internal divisions slowed collaboration, and the company's ability to innovate was stifled. While competitors were agile, Nokia was encumbered by an organization built to protect its past success, rather than to imagine the future. By 2010, it was increasingly clear that Symbian could not compete with iOS or Android. Nokia's leadership knew a shift was necessary and began exploring alternative operating systems. Two main paths emerged: adopt Android, the open platform that was rapidly gaining market share, or form an exclusive partnership with Microsoft's Windows Phone. Nokia chose Windows Phone. This decision was driven by a desire to maintain corporate identity and avoid becoming just another Android manufacturer. Microsoft offered exclusivity and financial incentives, and Nokia's new CEO Stephen Elop, formerly of Microsoft, strongly supported the alliance. In hindsight, the choice was disastrous. Windows Phone struggled to attract developers and build an app ecosystem, and it never gained traction with consumers. Nokia's Lumia series, built on the platform, failed to offset its losses, and the company's market share continued its rapid decline. The effects were dramatic and swift. Nokia's smartphone market share, once above 50%, plunged as competitors like Apple and Samsung surged ahead. By 2011, Apple had overtaken Nokia in mobile phone sales, a moment unthinkable just a few years earlier. In 2013, Nokia's phone business was sold to Microsoft for around 5.4 billion euros, marking the end of an era. What had once been a global leader was now exiting the industry it had helped pioneer. Nokia's market value, which once peaked at more than 250 billion euros, had collapsed, and the company that once symbolized mobile connectivity had become a lesson in how quickly dominance can disappear. Nokia's decline is not a simple story of being beaten by better technology. It is a complex strategic failure that reveals deeper lessons about leadership, innovation, and organizational culture. Underestimating disruption. Nokia did not simply overlook the iPhone, its leadership fundamentally misunderstood the nature of the disruption it represented. The shift was not about hardware specs, but about user experience and ecosystem value. Clinging to past strengths, success can blind organizations to emerging threats. Nokia's comfort with its hardware prowess and past dominance made it slow to embrace software-centric competition. Cultural barriers to change. A corporate culture that suppresses bad news and discourages dissent can be more dangerous than external competition. Nokia's internal dynamics prevented honest assessment and rapid response. Strategic missteps. Choosing a partner based on identity and ego rather than market realities such as the Windows Phone deal accelerated Nokia's downfall. Had Nokia embraced Android early, it might have remained competitive. While Nokia's mobile phone division faded, the company itself did not disappear entirely. After selling its handset business, Nokia shifted focus to network infrastructure and technology solutions. It has reinvented itself in areas like telecommunications equipment and network services. But for those formative years in the late 2000s, Nokia's story remains a stark warning. No level of success is permanent, and markets reward those who anticipate and adapt to change more than those who cling to what once worked. If stories about innovation, leadership, and missed opportunities inspire you, subscribe to the channel because the next turning point in history is already happening.